All right, everybody settle in. We have with us Raven Starkiller, also known as at King Lobster from Brazil. So I'm going to do this.
Hello.
You have a little news to talk about, Mr. President Bolsonaro. Some very humorous news in an otherwise, well, actually, his life is pretty amusing. So, but before that, the clip that I was playing, believe it or not, this is a cover of Rada, which is Sepultura. Sepultura is like, I guess, the most well-known Brazilian metal band that I know about.
Yeah, but they managed to kill their own reputation quite well.
So yeah, maybe like after we talk about Bolsonaro, you can talk a little about that. And also, so the band that was performing this cover, apparently they were in Moscow. So or they
Really?
yeah, I think they're a Russian band. In fact, the person who shared this video is Russian because it's Margarita Monova. Yeah, it's like Russian or Bulgarian or something. Anyway, so how you been? The last time that you were on the stream, I believe that our live streaming was banned and we were on the second channel. So
Really? Oh, yeah, true.
yeah, how's it been going over there? Has Brazil descended into like a hell of fascist suppression?
Honestly, I wish it did, because things here have been quite crazy. Not as crazy as I wanted it to be, but I think the last time we talked was on election day.
Yeah.
And I was quite excited, and during the beginning, like his first days were quite bumpy, because here in Brazil there is a really funny thing. When there is a new president for a month, the Congress is still the Congress from the previous mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think here with in the US it's quite different. I think there's like a 2 years interval between presidential election and Congress election. Am I right?
So in the US you'll have, for the House of Representatives it's 2 years. For the Senate, every senator is elected every 6 years, but the terms are staggered. So 1/3 of the senators are elected in, let's say 2018, and then another third in 2020, and then likewise in 2022. So it's staggered that way. But I think Congress gets sworn in like 2 weeks before the president does.
Yeah, here the Congress changes on after a month after the president. So Bolsonaro took power in the 1st of January, and then the Congress was renewed on the 1st of February.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, after you explain how it works in the US, it sounds less crazy how it works here.
So what ended up happening? I know I actually saw the swearing-in ceremony.
Yeah, I watched it too. So what happened? Well, the first thing he's done, it was actually quite good and got everybody quite excited, was that he made the gun control laws, he made them a bit less extreme, because here they are really extreme, the gun control laws here. Like before him, if you wanted to own a gun at home, I'm not talking about carrying. Carrying is impossible here.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to have a gun at home, you have to go to the federal police, and you basically put yourself at the mercy of the police chief that is there at the moment, because you have to explain why you need a gun, and there was this line of thinking between some federal cops that your gun needs to have a social function. Otherwise, you can't have a gun.
Well, I mean, if two people are shooting at the same person, isn't that social enough?
Yeah, I don't know, and also it can take quite a bizarre turn. This theory of a social cause. I'm gonna exterminate some people, so that's a social cause for the gun too. I don't know. So Bolsonaro changed that. Now you don't need to give an explanation why you need a gun. There is a lot of other shitty stuff about gun control here, like the caliber limitation is horrible. Like a 9 millimeter is forbidden here.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
What?
it's considered a military exclusive weapon use.
A 9 millimeter.
Yeah, and when I've been in Israel, I went to a shooting range,
Mhm.
and I never shot before. And the guy asked which gun I wanted to use. I just showed him my wrist that is really thin. I said, "Give me something that like girls and kids use or something like that." And then he gave me a Glock 9 millimeter.
Yeah, I
Why
mean,
on you?
over here, a Glock is basically something that, I mean, I went and I got, some training last year because I wanted to get licensed, and the Glock is used like, I have a different, like, higher caliber, or sorry, yeah, I have a higher caliber weapon, but which I don't really talk about on air. But in any case, because you can get banned on YouTube for like anything gun related now.
Yeah, I
Also,
know.
what we're saying when we say guns, we kind of mean balloon animals while we're talking here.
Yeah, or
Mark.
like how you would say guns in Minecraft.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in any case, yeah, we have. So whenever you go to get training, they actually give you the Glock because it's the easiest to get trained on, and almost nobody gets, almost anybody can handle the recoil. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
surprised if they say, oh, that's some sort of military style weapon. That's probably like the opposite of the definition of a 9 millimeter.
Yeah, exactly, and that leads me to another subject, which is the possibility of a Brazilian invasion in Venezuela.
Hmm.
With those standards, I mean, I posted on a video of yours. The Brazilian army is a joke. If anybody think that they can handle a war, I mean, I think it's a good example that they consider a 9 millimeter military use weapon here.
Well, I think that there could be, like, I think there's a point that I thought you were making that was a little different. So the military of Brazil probably is, because I know that you guys have a domestic arms industry over there. So I'm
Yeah,
sure that they have like better equipment than obviously 9 millimeter handguns in Minecraft. But the fact of the matter is that Brazil hasn't fought in a war for generations now, like a war with another country. So
yeah,
a lot of people, I personally, I think you've seen several of my streams concerning Venezuela. I hate the government over there, but I don't think the U.S. would be able to intervene over there and long term keep Venezuela stable and prosperous. It's really, we've tried to do that with other countries over in Latin America, and it doesn't work for them. It's
yeah.
like there's a difference between wanting somebody else to succeed and trying to force them to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't work, and I mean, I'm for democracy, but I have this theory that not all countries or cultures are compatible with democracy.
Hmm.
And for example, in Venezuela, I mean, the other guy, I forgot his name. The
Guaido.
quote unquote, yeah, the quote unquote self-proclaimed president. He's just another hardcore socialist. I mean, what's going to replace Maduro? I, I mean, I really don't know if it's worth fighting a war to replace a communist with a socialist. But honestly, also, I don't remember when it was the last time that. I mean, since maybe the Korean War, that U.S. intervention in that fashion really helped the country. If most just make things drags, because then the American politicians are kind of blackmailed by the media, and they have like to step down a notch with the intervention, and they I mean, it's the impression I have that it's more an operation of contingency. I don't know if I'm being clear, than really getting things done. Because if somebody tells me, "Oh, what if you're gonna send a group of special ops to get in Venezuela, assassinate Maduro, and all his supporters, like in a matter of I don't know, a night," I think it's impossible. And maybe like that, I would be in favor of it. I don't know if it's even impossible. Maybe I'm imagining it even a bit too cinematographic. But anything that's not that, or even to say just nuke the country and make everything change. Anything that's not that, I think it's just gonna drag the problem. Like what's happening now in Syria. I mean, not only the US but also Europe helped things to drag a lot there. Even in the Ukraine, I remember I was watching some of those Vice documentaries that they did in the Ukraine during the Russian invasion of the Crimea. That they would show the Ukrainians pissed. Oh, we ask for help, and all we get is like flashlights and uniforms and shit like that. I mean, that doesn't help at all. And I can really see with international intervention in Venezuela, things becoming like Syria or in the Ukraine there. I really think it wouldn't be helpful at all, and maybe it would just make things messier there and here.
Right, and I actually had on about a month and a half ago two guests of mine who have been, they've been talking to me for about 2 years, and they are Venezuelan. And I said that the fact is the best thing that could happen for Venezuela at the moment is if Russia was to kill what's his name, Maduro, and put like a smarter puppet in.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's ideal that Russia has so much influence over there, and China either, but I mean, at this point, it's not about who has their finger in the pie. It's about the pie actually getting baked correctly.
Also, they wouldn't care what the Western media would say about it, so they would do whatever it takes to get it accomplished.
Right, and I don't understand the issue here. I mean, I think it's good we're talking about Venezuela alongside Brazil, because I think that the broader issue is not whether Venezuela is a friend of the United States. It's whether they have a government that actually serves the interests of the public, and instead of squirreling away so much money over in banks in Europe and the rest of now they're squirreling it away in Russia and other banks around the world. So I think that personally, it's difficult for me to see the interest that China and Russia have in keeping Maduro personally in power, because he's run the country's oil industry into the ground. The only interest I could see is that Russia happens to have a massive oil industry. I think Russia is actually pretty high up there among oil exporters. So maybe they're trying to keep the price a little higher, but the fact is that they could be helping Venezuela while still looking out for their own interests. Like, I think neither of us are like big fans of like Mike Pence and the neocon agenda here in the U.S. So it's like, I don't want any Americans to die in a war over South America, but some of these idiots that are trying to stand and say, well, Maduro is a legitimate leader and he was democratically elected, and so you're basically saying that you want a person who is an ignorant retard and thinks that his predecessor is speaking in visions to him of a bird. You think that that's the way forward for a country of over 30 million people. Sure. So I think it's good to kind of stay away from either of those camps.
Yeah, because it would only complicate the situation for the neighbor countries in South America. Also, it would make things worse there in the US. I don't know. I was watching a Housey live stream that he was saying that if the US would invade, it was on a Housey live stream or it was yours? Now I'm confused. Well, somebody was saying that, if we invade Venezuela, we're going to have a shitload of Venezuelans immigrating here. I mean, it's quite far, I believe. I think the poor Venezuelans would go to Brazil and Colombia, but the rich ones maybe would go to the US, but I think the rich ones are already in the US.
Well, look, I think we were already getting people immigrating from Venezuela because of the way it's being run now. And like when there was the whole shit show in Nicaragua last year.
Yeah, the caravan thing, right?
Yeah, well, Nicaragua wasn't that would be Honduras and Guatemala.
Oh, yeah, right.
So I've said that, just because there's countries run by right wing idiots doesn't mean that left wing idiots aren't causing the same problems. And in Nicaragua, all these people who are on the political left kept saying, well, it's really the CIA that's undermining the Nicaraguan government, and in the end, if they fall, we're going to have a ton of Nicaraguans coming over here. Well, guess what? Because of the behavior of the Nicaraguan government, you have basically shanty towns in Costa Rica, which is another Central American country, which is the most peaceful and least impoverished Central American country. So you have mobs of people going after these refugees over there because of the socialist government in Nicaragua, which is basically, tear gassing and beating the shit out of protesters there. It's the same idea as what's happening on your border over in Brazil and Venezuela. So yes, I think that like intervening in these countries is wrong, but the refugee problem is still being caused by these governments that are basically causing a total breakdown in the social order because they can't keep the services together.
Yeah, I mean, here in Brazil, there is a lot of Venezuelans coming. I mean, I don't know if you saw the mess that happened in the border in Roraima.
I think
people from the town
this.
started rounding up the Venezuelans and beating the crap out of them because I mean, Brazil overall is an underdeveloped country. I mean, if compared with the US, some countries of Europe, Roraima, it's much worse. I mean, they are pretty much in the rainforest. Their power grid. They don't have their own power grid. I mean, it's really, really primitive there. And all of a sudden, there is this flood of Venezuelans arriving, and the city became the city was already poor, and now it became a big slum, a big favela, like with tents everywhere full of Venezuelans, and they're mugging people, invading stores. So, I mean, some consequences are already happening, and that I would consider for the argument of an intervention. Also, another thing I was thinking, and that maybe would be a good argument for an intervention, is that Brazil has a moral responsibility of helping the Venezuelans to get rid of Maduro, because it was the Brazilian government, one of the big factors that helped Chavez to get in power in Venezuela. I mean, there was Brazilian money in his campaign, his first campaign.
Yeah, and I think the issue. So those of us that are as like being an anti-interventionist, people like I think we're both close to the same side, me and you specifically, but. Those of us that are against intervention overseas, I specifically, I don't want the U.S. to intervene in other countries. I could personally care less if Colombia invaded. That's not my problem. So if Colombia invaded, I'd be totally fine.
And they are better prepared than Brazil is, because they have all the FARC thing going on for decades. I think they're more prepared to fight a war.
So yeah, that's exactly. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. So they actually have Colombian guerrilla groups, the National Liberation Army or ELN, and the FARC are both they're both sitting on Venezuelan territory and taking shelter there and basically propping up Maduro's government. So technically Maduro and Chavez before him have been intervening in Colombia. Nobody cared about that at the time. The problem with the left is that they don't see their own intervention as an intervention. They see it as basically a
international solidarity.
Yeah, exactly. That's like they don't like to take their own medicine, which is that's the real problem with them calling themselves anti-interventionists. They're not. They like intervention when it promotes the ideas that they want to put in force around the world. They want a one world system of Marxism where there's they would call it a classless society. Inevitably there would be classes and obviously a ruling class and the people who are loyal to the ideas and the doctrines of Marxism, and then everybody else would probably be, essentially slaves to the system.
Yeah, well, Cuba is the biggest interventionist in the entire American continent. I mean, more than in the US for sure. You have the mess in Venezuela. I mean, because in Venezuela, I believe that there was like the ideological intervention from Cuba, Then there was the military help from those groups like FARC and other guerrilla groups, and there was the economical intervention from Brazil. And but the big one to intervene on all the other countries is Cuba, because I don't know if you know about that program that the Workers' Party stated here of the Mais Médicos.
Yeah. I think you might have actually mentioned it in the election stream. I think we actually talked about it, but they're doing the same thing in Venezuela.
Yeah, they did there first. Actually, they also did it with teachers there. They have Cuban teachers there because here they couldn't do that because of the language differences. I mean, if all of a sudden you would put Cubans speaking Spanish in the Brazilian schools, it wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't work. But in Venezuela, they did with teachers. They did with doctors. If you follow those Venezuelan Twitter accounts, and I don't know if the people in Venezuela you talk to already mentioned that, but every now and then somebody mentions that those colectivos, those groups, the GNB, Guarda Nacional Bolivariana, that they say that they can hear the accent difference, that they are not Venezuelan, some of these people. So actually that Cuban invasion has been going on for a much longer time in Venezuela.
Yeah, I think we're getting some issues with the stream, by the way, because there's a lot of buffering.
Oh.
So I've tried to adjust the bit rate a little higher. Let me see. Yes, I keep seeing the frame is also freezing, so let me pause for a second. Let me put it 900. I mean, I keep seeing it, like, I think we've had people drop and come back, so let me see if this helps. But
now it's a bit choppy, but it's not frozen anymore.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It might have to do both with the connection, with I mean, did we have problems the last time? Because with some countries, I have issues getting a smooth stream. Especially one time I had it with Zimbabwe, and it was basically like we were like, you know, skiing down a hill. Like every couple seconds, like the signal would get lost.
Yeah, we should try doing it on Discord the next time. Maybe it's gonna work better there. I don't know.
Where?
On Discord.
Oh, on Discord. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't even know if it's because of Hangouts.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. I mean, Brazilian internet is quite shitty, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think who's the person? Lennon McCarthy has Lennon McCarthy who's in the chat. We've had like some very awful connections, like in the past, and he's in California. So, and I hear that from a lot of people in California, that there's like horrible internet for whatever reason. And
well, California is slowly becoming a South American country, so maybe it's that.
Yeah, I mean, I asked Carlos that last time he was on for the Venezuela stream, and he was like, "No, it's not actually happening." But yeah, I hear people. So let's get into this golden shower episode. Yeah. Now,
that was something.
I didn't know that he'd actually tweeted out the video of some dude pissing on another one, but and here it shows. This is sick, but. Do you think like
on Minecraft they're pissing on each other only on Minecraft?
Exactly. Yeah. So the thing is, like, was he actually serious about not knowing what a golden shower is, or was he just trying to be like rhetorical and say, why is it that Carnival, which is, you know, technically Carnival would be a Catholic festival, right? So why are people doing this?
Well, because I've learned that when I lived in Italy, that the Carnival is this Catholic celebration that for like I think 2 days you celebrate, because Carnival in Latin means goodbye meat, farewell meat.
Yeah,
meat, no flesh. I always confuse that flesh, and that they. You celebrate all the pleasures of flesh during those 2 days, and then on Wednesday, the Wednesday, I don't know how is the name of the holiday in English. That they draw the crosses on
Ash
the
Wednesday, yeah.
So it's the same thing as in Portuguese.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from that until Easter, you don't do shit. I mean, you stay quiet, you renounce all the pleasures and stuff. But here in Brazil, actually, in some states, it starts like in November of the previous year, and then it goes all the way through February. And like in the Northeast, it keeps going. I mean, if you go to Bahia, the Northeast, it's pretty much all year long that this crap happens. And the point is in this tweet is that it's paid with public money. I mean, here the taxpayer is paying for this shit, and it's and that thing that Bolsonaro posted, it actually happens. I mean, in the place I previously lived at, I saw people pissing in the streets. I saw gay couples, normal couples fucking each other in the streets. I mean, it's really a disgrace. I mean, there's a lot of robbery, and then the traffic doesn't work anywhere. The police gets overwhelmed. So if anything happens to you, good luck being you. And I was actually doing a stream when it happens in the new place. It was a Saturday afternoon, like a week before Carnival, but things were already getting crazy here. I was doing a live stream, playing a game, and then I start listening a bunch of screaming, and then I go out at the window to check, and there's this group of 10 black dudes dressed like they are in a funk video clip. And they were, oh, you're fucking bourgeoisie, we're gonna rob everything from you. You took us from Africa so we would sleep in the streets. It was basically the We Was Kangs gang going on.
Oh yeah, like what's his name? Tariq Nasheed.
Yeah.
So yeah, here in I mean, it's
no, it gets worse. It gets worse. And then there was this white dude that was jogging all calmly, passed by them. They looked at him, get the fucking whitey, and they started chasing him, and the guy simply disappeared. I called the police, and nothing happened. I don't know if the guy survived or not.
That's pretty insane. I mean, if you're like, I live in a city, like I'm obviously not Catholic, but we have like a huge Catholic like population here, like massive amounts of Irish, Slovenians, Italians, Polish people. So for them to think that this is what a Catholic festival would be about, I mean, we do have St. Patrick's Day. We have like a pretty big parade, and everybody goes downtown and gets drunk and pukes on the sidewalk, I guess. But usually you don't see like debauchery and people getting, banged by other dudes or something. And then there's the Feast of the Assumption, which is like more like it's a festival for the Italian people here, but usually like you just have people playing, like small gambling games and eating pastry or whatever. It's actually a pretty family friendly.
Funded?
I don't even know if it's publicly funded. There's probably a little funding from the neighborhood or the city, but not from. Are you talking about like the state of where you're from, Minas or? Yeah. So they put funding into it. I don't think the state of Ohio would put money into a Catholic festival here.
Well, here the city hall puts money in it, the state government puts money in it, and the federal government puts money in it. The drug lords put money in it. I mean, it's like all the problems that surround Brazil are summed up during Carnival. Because you have this relation between crime and politicians, the size of the state, the way they intervene, those leftist artists that say they are good and they are nice because they are leftist, getting like there is this singer from Bahia. I think when she does a concert for Carnival, she gets like $10 million from the federal government. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think the main point of this tweet by Bolsonaro was to expose that. Now, the thing is that there are rumors that actually it wasn't Bolsonaro who tweeted that. It was his son.
What a scandal.
Yeah. Now, if it was Bolsonaro who tweeted, I believe that he really didn't know what a golden shower is. But if it was his son, he asked for the laws.
He asked for so he was the one who asked to like pass a law against this.
No. I mean, because he first tweeted the video and then he tweeted, "What is golden shower?"
Okay.
I mean, if it was Bolsonaro who tweeted those two tweets, I believe that he really didn't know what a golden shower is.
Right.
But if it was his son, I believe that he was. I mean, he's younger. He probably knows what a golden shower is, so he was probably trolling. But I mean, nobody's sure. It's just by the way that he tweeted and stuff. Some people started speculating that it was actually his son, and it wouldn't be the first time that his son takes over his account and start to mess up things.
Yeah, you know, there's some like real, like, I think that what are they trying to say? Like that these that these these celebrations are out of hand, and that we should stop, like, you guys should stop funding them. Was that like the whole point? Or
Yeah, it was a look. This became a degeneracy festival. It causes a lot of issues, and the taxpayers paying for it. This should end. The point was basically that.
yeah, there was this video I'm trying to find, actually, like in Brazil. There's probably something very like a similar issue that people are bringing up, where there's like people actually put on blackface for Carnival and like dance around and do like these are things like in the U.S. If you ever did this, you would get fired and never be able to get hired again in your life. But
they're gonna end the fun here too. It's about to end here. So Americans, if you wanna do some blackface and party, come to Brazil. Now you don't need no longer need to come over.
So let me see here. There's it was from Yahoo News. I have to find this. I thought, is that like a common thing over there too, or is it like more of
to blackface?
Yeah.
No, in the media until the early 2000s, it was still normal. I mean, there is this really good Brazilian comedy group called Hermes e Renato.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good, really good. You should check them out eventually. And they have some stuff they did that they would do in blackface, like they would do like fake rap videos. They would all blackface, but I mean, it wouldn't be with the offensive intention that blackface is. The concept of blackface and that being offensive, it's kind of foreign here. But now with the internet and with all the Twitter social justice stuff spreading all over the globe, I think it's something that if it's not dead yet, it's gonna end up dying here.
Yeah. Like what's strange is that you have you have, like, in Brazil, there's always been kind of a strong culture of leftism, but like recently there's like feminism has polluted even the left that used to there's people who used to be on the left who were, I guess, more about workers and labor issues and things like that, which I guess it's a worthy conversation. And then you get people asking, why is it that dudes get to sit a certain way on the subway, manspreading, and then they'll talk about what was the like people are talking about how you need to allow women now to grow out their facial hair and their unibrows and whatever. And you know what? I would like to, put out a theory there that when, the labor movement in the Western world came about in the 19th century, they weren't really concerned about how much hair you could keep on your face or whether, they were more concerned whether the subway would be able to function safely than, who got to sit how.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, that's something that's starting to contaminate even some sectors of the right here. That's the thing that worries me a lot here in Brazil. Like,
they're copying the same nonsense?
Yeah, like I have a relative that she claims to be pretty much right-wing, but she works in a comic book publication. Mm-hmm. And then she was telling me about all these UN people that she's been meeting and that they've been exposing to her the evils of misogyny around the world, and that's something terrible. That in the northeast of Brazil, boys can't use the same that they have to use the same toilet together because they don't think about their girls. And summing up, this sort of bullshit started leaking on the products that they are releasing, and these people they claim to be right wingers.
Yeah, there's I mean, you have things like this. I'll try to send you this article in the chat because you won't be able to see it for a second. But this is from Jezebel, which is basically, it's like internet toilet paper, but they mobilized. So I just sent you the article. It says Brazilian black women have been the safeguard of democracy. So this is from last year in October, and they're saying, well, we're going to fight the rise of Bolsonaro, and I mean, isn't it true that the majority of Brazilians have some sort of like interracial like lineage? So who the fuck cares?
Yeah. Like when there was that school shooting here in Brazil a couple of months ago, I believe.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah, the mass shooting. I mean, compared to other shooting, but there were those two kids that they gathered a bunch of guns, stole a car, went to their school, and tried to shoot everybody. But I think in the end they killed like 4 people, I think, and then they suicided. And then there was this. It was I think it was like a week before the New Zealand shooting, something like that. And then they were talking about the chants where they posted and stuff. And then a friend of mine found a Tor site where they used to go, and the site was called Alt-Right Brazil. I saw the title and started laughing. I mean, how can a Brazilian be for an ethno state? I mean,
yeah,
unless you call the Brazilians out of Brazil, maybe.
Like I think that in many cases the attribution of people to the label alt-right is just that the audience scared about if you're from a different racial group, let's say for the sake of argument, you're a Thai person from Thai. 1 second. For some reason, I went on Twitch because I'm trying to find this stream to send people, because we're actually live streaming on Twitch too, in case the stream is a little better on there. So the thing is that